Hello, and welcome once again to With New Eyes, this weekly walkthrough of our Cathedral of St. Peter here in Belleville. Jesus and his disciples were in a boat. How many times in the sacred scriptures, in the Holy Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, do we hear that Jesus and the disciples were in a boat, crossing the sea, preaching from the boat, in the midst of a storm, in a boat? And so here we are in this cathedral, in the North Nave. N-A-V-E, nave. It comes from the Latin word navus, which means ship. We get our word navigator from the same word that describes this part of the cathedral, the North Nave. A nave is a central area of a church, usually along the main aisle with pews on either side. And if we look up, we see that it is in the shape of a boat upside down, perhaps made of wood, but a sign that the people of God travel to him together in this great cathedral. This which is built of stones, but built of living stones. Listen to this. The nave is not for the audience. It is not a public arena. There is no audience. For the entire congregation acts. The procession begins. The procession ends through the nave. Singing happens here. Praying happens here. The sprinkling with holy water happens here. The communion procession from place to place, like a single body, not simply as individuals. All parts together in unity, like a boat. And here in the cathedral, we have two naves, a south nave, which we'll talk about next week, but this north nave. The walls that reach so high are of three parts. We see this arcade of arches, these vertical pillars, these columns that are like trees, whether they're made of wood or stone like these. We often see at the top of the pillar a leafy decoration to remind us of the trees of nature, to remind us perhaps of Adam and Eve and the garden, of the garden from which Christ rose from the dead, and in which we gather, drawing our eyes up beyond the pillars and the arches to this narrow but long gallery, as it's called. There was once in medieval cathedrals what was called a minstrel's gallery. The musicians would gather up there. And today, of course, the sacred role of those who lead the music in the liturgy comes from the choir loft, that there might be divine harmony, especially here in the cathedral with our great pipe organ. And then at the top of the wall, the windowed clerestory, a word which means to let in light, clear and bright, because light is a very important part of a cathedral. The cathedral building itself teaches us by words that are spoken here, by shapes, the very shape of the building, but also by the images of light. Light, for example, in the stained glass windows. For in order for there to be such great height, such tall pillars, such great walls, there must be openings in the walls to let in these great panels of glass, stained glass we call it, to let in the light, for God is light, and in him there is no darkness. And these windows here in the north nave represent family life in the New Testament in Jesus Christ. There is the window of the presentation of Mary, a little girl along with her parents, taken and presented in the temple, Mary, Saints Joachim and Anne. Then there is the window of the betrothal of Mary and Joseph. Joseph, that just, that good and upright man who holds in his left hand the lily, the sign of purity, and in his right, the ring of marriage. Then the window of the Annunciation, in which God's messenger Gabriel comes and says, "Hail, full of grace," and the Virgin Mary gives her fiat, "Let it be done to me," and the Word becomes flesh, the incarnation. There is a window here then of the visitation, Mary and Elizabeth, but a more important visitation perhaps, in which John the Baptist, the last of the prophets, the precursor, meets Christ the Lord in the womb. These windows of family life, they continue. A window of the nativity, of the birth of Christ. There is the babe, the angel, Mary, his mother, Joseph, his foster father, the shepherds, the sheep, even the little town of Bethlehem and the star burning bright above it. A window of the finding in the temple, Jesus, just 12 years old, among the scholars of the law and the prophets, answering their questions and explaining to them the 10 commandments of the law hanging on the wall as a symbol of the old covenant, for he would be the new covenant himself. And a window of the wedding feast at Cana. Appropriate because for more than a century and a half, there have been many, many thousands of weddings here in this cathedral. Many brides and grooms have walked down this aisle. I would point out just one tiny piece of glass, one piece of glass which shows the water poured, which has become the choicest wine. These great windows let the light of the Creator into this building, but they do more. They help us to see the light of a new and heavenly Jerusalem. As you gaze at this nave, in this boat, with Christ and all the people of God, in this nave, see Jesus Christ with new eyes.